Yeah, Tom, all I'm saying for sure is when you're making chili, make sure that your wife is super sensitive to spicy stuff. Make sure she's not downwind of the serrano peppers because you will accidentally mace your wife.
No, but see, that's like how you rub it, literally rub it in her face that you're doing the cooking around the house because you're stinking the place up.
It's true. I did literally rub it in her face.
Yeah.
Not
You
a
did
bad
her like,
point.
hey, who's doing the cooking now?
Well, in my house, we're pretty 50-50.
Mm.
We take our turns.
I prepare food often, but if there's cooking involved, it's a one-way street there.
Our friend Jeff insists that you would love it if you got into it
I know, I
because
would.
you're a nerdy, detail-y kind of person, and there's a lot of details in food. The
I think
subtle things.
I think I'm one of the few people that like when they make food, they find it less appetizing than when someone else makes it. Like it doesn't taste better to me when I make food. It tastes worse.
Hmm.
No, I don't know if it's made worse. It doesn't taste as good to me.
I find with practice, I can make it the way that I want it, but I do overthink it. Welcome to FFIB. I'm Jason. That's Tom. Might as well squeeze in the intro. I'm very sleepy, guys. I've got allergies. It's allergy season here in Indiana. As fall kicks in, today's the fall equinox. By the way, um, when that kicks in, it tends to be the peak of allergy misery in Indiana. So both my wife and I are feeling congested and coffee and snotty, and I've been sneezing like crazy. And my daughter, same thing. Like all three of us.
Sounds lovely to be
It's
around.
lovely. It's not
Sounds
Zilla.
lovely.
Got the same crew. FFIB crew is always here. What's going on, guys? Mailman's here. I dislike my cooking. Everyone else's food is fine. I have a rule though. If you cook, I will eat it. I don't have to like it. I may not like it at all, but you're not going to know that I don't like it. I'm going to eat it. So my wife is, and times she's had recipes that she's made for a long time, and she'll be like, "Should I make this?" And I'll be like, "I'd rather you didn't." And she'll go, "What do you mean?" I'll go, "Well, I don't like that dish." And then she'll get, and when we were first married, she'd get offended by that. It would be like she'd never recover. And
Yeah.
now that we've been married longer, she'll be like, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" And I'll be like, "I thought you liked it." She'd go, "I
Yeah,
thought I was making it because you like it."
I find it very convenient that I go on diets on the spur of the moment, like, oh, I'm on a diet today. I can't eat that. I'm sorry, I'm on a diet. Happens a lot.
She was like, "Is the chili spicy that you just made?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's spicy." She's like, "Well, if it's spicy, I can't eat it." I'm like, "I didn't make it for you."
I made all 20 bowls I'm gonna get worth out of this thing for myself.
Right.
You gonna put
Yeah,
cheese
I
on
don't
it, or do you eat it straight up?
generally I don't know. Cheese on chili just makes for a messy spoon. You don't really taste the cheese. It just makes your spoon weird. And then
It
you get
does.
the cheese texture on your spoon. I hate that. So if I'm dipping the chips in it, then I'll put cheese on it. If I'm not, then I don't. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I like having food that's ready, that's delicious, that's satisfying, that I can heat up anytime I want it. So at those weird times of night where it's like, man, it's 11:15 and I can't order a pizza because everything's closed. I'm really hungry for something that's like really tasty. I can in about 10 minutes I can thaw a little thing of chili and I can eat it up. So that's it's like one of my reserve meals, I guess. Think like Campbell's soup, but the next level.
Yes. We have I mean, I have a Costco, literally Costco case of Nally chili in the closet, in the pantry. There's so many to choose from. I think you would like these.
Ooh.
Aramis Raptor and Blue Alutex. Those are pretty fun.
By the
Well,
way, he no longer carries that material,
then they're not that fun.
and he's run
You didn't
out.
see those. You didn't see those.
Yeah.
Or these aren't as exciting looking, but they're really good. These are AWT scales, the normal ones. They're excellent quality for not that much money. He's been hitting me up for some ideas. Or some Rips Garage Tech reverse hex scales in titanium.
I believe those are reverse hex. Yeah.
Yes.
The inside out hex that you would think are reverse hex are not reverse hex. These are just regular hex.
Yep. Or if you want to get really nutty, you can get some fluted RG custom metalwork scales.
So if I were you, I would go with the Rips Garage Tech, and I would wait for the special Millie PM2 pair of 3 scales that are super duper close to being done. We've been talking about this for a long time, but it's finally done. The design is cool. They're going to be laser engraved. So you're going to get his weight relieved titanium scales, and then you can get the Millie Club special logo and lasered on them. And then not long from now, you'll be able to do the same thing with other types of titanium scales. So
they look fast.
Yep, it'll look fast, but Steve Ripplinger makes a fantastic titanium scale.
Yes, very much so.
You know what I like about them, Tom?
Lots.
All the screws go all the way tight, and the knife works perfectly.
They do.
You don't have to play the game where you're cheating the screws to get the action the way you want it.
Yeah, works good.
Yep.
No blade play. My pair of 3 is my favorite pair of 3 probably. And the wrist scales, they're pretty good.
Show us the Mannix scales. I've got some Mannix AWT.
I don't know if you're talking about these ones I was flipping off at the beginning. These are pretty fun. This is my favorite Mannix. These are Shepherd custom snake skin. What was it? Yeah, snake skin, copper snake skin scales. These are pretty dope.
Pretty dope.
I like them. I like them a lot.
I don't know where my AWT Mannix is.
I got you covered. Oh, they look different on camera. They look very green on camera. They don't look that green in person. Very green on.
Oh, there they are, right in front of me. They do look green on camera. So, guys, if you go with these, they're liner deletes. Because why would you need a liner if you've got a metal handle? The grip is really nice. There is a little bit of a finger grip here, and then it's smooth the rest of the way back. Very comfortable. You can go lefty or righty in the handle, in the pocket clip, excuse me. But yeah, they work really well. So I like these AWTs.
They're like, they really changed the way the Mannix feels completely. Like, it's balance, it's grip, everything about it. It just
feels fancier.
It does.
We should talk Cerberus. Yeah, Cerberus. Chris is a friend of ours, and he works on the Cerberus scales, and they're killing it. I have a lot of Cerberus scales. I like his G10 stuff a lot. His Micarta stuff is good too, but I prefer the G10. When he did a run of orange and black with Cutlery Shop, I bought a bunch of those.
Oh, true. Love the orange. Love the orange.
Oh, you went with the copper snakeskin.
I know. Nice. It's a cool looking material. It's flashy, but not too flashy.
No, it looks good. Sean wants some AWT natives.
Those are well, they already are a big hit, but those are gonna be great when those come out. People stop bugging me about mine. Because they're really good. They're really good scales. One hand. You can one hand open and close a native. You can do it.
But Tom, don't you just wish it was a compression lock?
No, I don't, because I have a pair of 3. I don't want another pair of 3. I want a different knife. I want something that's different than my other knife.
I have a new saying, Tom.
What is
that? Don't turn a cat into a dog.
Okay.
Let a cat be a cat and a dog be a dog. We've got pair of 3s. We've got natives. We've got sages, right? There's a lot of options out there, and I don't think every option needs to be on every knife.
No. Granted, the Lil Native has a compression lock. It also has a back lock and also the slip joint. But there is no Lil Para 3 to compete with it. There's already a Para 3. There can be a native. They can be different things.
I don't need a
Okay.
frame lock PM2. I don't need a bar lock PM2.
No.
I don't have to. I don't have to have a back lock PM2. There is one. It's called a stretch.
Very true.
I'd like a native 5XL.
Have that.
So I guess Walter means something between a native chief and a native.
I agree with that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the native chief, but there's some room for something in the middle of this family.
I'd say. Jimmy Massey's here. The Barclay scales are very good.
Those are
They're
good
very
too.
well done.
Those are good too. They're not that expensive either. For titanium, I think you can get PM2 titanium scales for $130 with anodizing, inlaid anodizing, which looks really cool. And the titanium finish that they leave. Some scale makers, I guess it's less so than it used to be, but I don't like blasted finishes on titanium scales. It feels chalky to me. They get snail trails. But the Barclay, the way that they're anodized and then they're like stone washed to leave just the high spots bare, it leaves a really good, solid, not scratchy, not gritty feeling titanium finish. It feels good. It feels good in hand.
Blasting tie is the softest tie. When you stone wash it, it hardens it.
Okay.
It literally hardens the titanium. So it's harder to scratch it. Wrong show for shamans. This is not the shaman show. This is the Millie PM2 Para 3 show. Natives are they've somehow metastasized into the group. But the shaman's not invited.
No.
I don't own a shaman. Do you own a shaman?
Oh yeah.
Do you have like one or two?
I have like 4, 5.
Do you have that bomb ass blue one with the standoffs?
Oh, I have Miami Vice one.
Yeah, that's the one. That one's insta famous.
On standoff, super blue. Yeah.
Excuse me while I put on my Brad Caldwell kissing potion.
This is my favorite shaman though. Dark Matter Shaman with S90V and a mirror. Oh, it's too cool.
Who made you the dark matter?
Aramis.
Pretty nice.
Yep.
What's wrong with shamans? They're heavy and they're dull. And
You got a nub.
They're heavy. Yeah, the nub's weird. They're not good left-handed. The way that the handles are shaped, they're slippery. So generally leaving the stock G10 on it means you're going to have a slippery knife.
I do not have a G10 shaman because there is no right-handed. There's barely enough purchase room to drop close a shaman. Jason's right. When he says they're bad for lefties, it's a no-go. It's a drop it on your foot, stab you in the toe kind of grip.
You know how Jeep makes the Grand Cherokee and the Cherokee, and those are legitimate, and the Wrangler, those are legitimate off-road vehicles, but then they make like the tall car Jeeps, and they claim they're trail rated, but they're really not, right? It's not an off-road vehicle. Do you know what I mean? It's a tall Jeep car, but it's just a car. So people buy the Shamans thinking it's a hard use knife. It's not. The pivot size is the same. The washer size is the same as your PM2. It's not really a hard use knife in the classic sense of it. When you're looking at hard use knives, you're looking at a bigger pivot. You're looking at bigger washers, just like to make the knife overbuilt. And I don't think the Shaman's overbuilt.
Got a thick blade. I'll give it that. Got a thick blade for when you want to baton it or whatever.
But the pivot is going to still fail. That's the weak point.
Yeah.
So the liners aren't any thicker. It's just not a heavy duty knife. So not my favorite. And there's plenty of people that love it, and you guys can love it all you want. So I sold all mine a while ago. I used to have 3 shamans. I sold them all. Yeah.
There was about a year ago, shamans were like the hottest thing. You could sell any shaman you want was at least $300. You could sell any of them like immediately for that much. And
Right.
it seems like ever since the 15V kind of like saturated the shaman market, people are like, oh, now I don't know, kind of got over it. They don't seem like they move as fast as they used to.
If I want a 3.5-inch knife, I'm going to carry a PM2. And if I want a bigger knife, then I carry a military. So I don't ever want to, I'd never reached for my shamans. So wasn't my jam. There's always one in the crowd, Tom.
At least.
Take your shaman and try opening and closing it in your left hand. Spidey flick it open and then drop the blade shut. It's just
And then
not.
do it over carpet and
Yeah,
watch
don't do it
shows.
over your balls while you're driving.
Yeah,
So the shaman and the kapara are both similar in that the curvature of the handle and the smoothness of the handle material makes it really difficult to pinch left-handed.
yeah.
Yeah, shamans are also not really a summer carry. You can get away with a PM2. You know, Tom, I carried this monster all day today.
Of course you did. That's all
An orange
you only
Millie.
carry big knives now. It seems like.
No, I'll carry pair of 3 lightweights sometimes, but this was in my pocket all day and I was wearing shorts.
There
I
you
don't know.
go.
Didn't bother me.
Well, militaries are surprisingly light for how gigantic they are because there's not.
Yeah.
It's not all liners. It's mostly G10.
Yeah, the way they made these things back then, the only metal really is in the lock bar, and there's a little bit on the other side. So there's a very, very minimal amount of liner in there. It's
Yeah.
mostly just G10.
I didn't even think you could skinny those. You have a skinny military, and I know how you love skinny knives.
Yeah, Aramis offers like 8 or 9 different
It's
milli
true.
handle options, and they're all badass. I had 3 shamans, 2 rec exclusives, and a 15V. I sold them all. They just didn't work for me. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I had many shamans since they came out, and at first I was collecting them and I was excited to have them, and then after a while I realized that they weren't getting carried, and then I realized it's just not my jam.
It was the thing that broke me probably of trying to keep up with. I got a complete pair of 3 collection. I had all the natives that had come out since I got into collecting knives, and all the PM2s that had come out since I started collecting knives. Then I was like having to get all the shamans. It broke me. It was like, okay, I think I had a dozen or 15 of them at some point. It was like, I can't get them all. There was coming out
Right,
too quick. It broke me.
right. So, guys, the exclusive program from Spyderco is long and complex, and it requires the dealer and the Spyderco to agree on the design, and then their contract has to be written, and then it's forecasted into the ordering. And it's generally right now a 2 to 3 year process to get a exclusive. So the other fun part is that dealers like the element of surprise, so they generally don't tell you what's coming. And then on top of that, um, Spyderco doesn't tell you what's on the way until it's literally in the mail. So a lot of these dealers don't even know what's coming. So if you were to ask all of your favorite dealers, give them some truth serum and have them tell you what's coming, they don't know either. So
That's a really nice financial surprise they get burdened with possibly a bad time too.
yeah, I mean, imagine how much it would suck to have to buy $150,000 worth of knives and know that you have to sell them right away
Yeah,
because you just added a big chunk to your inventory.
yeah.
Zerk scales are gorgeous and they are heavy, no doubt. Yep, they are. I agree with Dan. If you're gonna skinny a millie, you're ruining the grip.
Yeah.
That swell in the middle of the handle is really important for holding on to the knife. So Tom, last week we talked to Tactile Knife Company's Michael Miller.
We did for a minute or two.
Yeah, and I want to thank Michael for being on the show. I wasn't sure if that guy could talk or not, but I know he can now, and I'm glad because sometimes we have guests on and they're really shy or they don't say a lot, and we're
Yeah.
pulling things out of them. But this time, Michael really had a lot to talk about, and it was one of those things where I wanted to give the interview a little structure, but also I was excited to just let him go. Right, I want to let him talk. People hear us talk all the time, so you did a better job than I did staying out of the way. But there were times where I felt like I had to jump in a little and interrupt him to keep it kind of to hit what I wanted to talk about.
We could have just put his screen at full size. Is what you're saying? Made our
Yeah,
windows.
yeah, just solo hit screen. But guys, after that interview, I went and bought myself. I bought myself one of the Richard Roger designs.
Those are nice.
This is called the Maverick, and the Maverick is really pretty decent sized knife. Let me hold it up with my PM2 right here. You can see that when I hold them together, if I can get
Ooh,
my hand out of the way, it's pretty much the same size as a PM2
Yeah.
from one end to the other. The blade length, I haven't measured it, but it's pretty good size blade length. Let's see here. Yeah, from the G10 to the tip, it's 3.5, and you'll notice that the edge goes all the way back to here. So we're talking a pretty good cutting length. It has a nice flat spot here, Tom, so it makes it easy to sharpen. Thumb studs are kind of that mushroom shape, which is my preferred thumb stud shape. Let me put it on my forehead. Blade's very thin. The handle is also very thin, and the reason, Tom, it's thin is that it runs on washers instead of bearings.
Okay.
Washer
I
knives,
do.
guys, can be skinnier.
Yeah, that's true.
It does have skeletonized liners. Well, somewhat skeletonized. They're actually, that's not fair. They're solid liners if you really get down to it. The springs that work the bar lock actually have 3 separate holes, so you can adjust the tension
cool.
on the bar. So I have mine on the loosest because that's how I roll. But if you want it to be a little bit tighter, you can set it that way.
You have to take it like the scale off to change that then?
You would need to remove the G10. So if you guys have ever taken apart a TRM Atom, you know that the scale material is separate from the liners, and it's really like it's really like a complete knife with a skin on it, right? This
Yeah.
knife's kind of similar. If you want to get the G10 off, you just pull these 2 screws, and then you pull the pivot, you pull this screw, and then you have to remove the pocket clip and the standoffs. See the standoffs there?
Mhm.
Once you remove all of those, the G10 comes off of both sides, and you can get to the Omega springs. They probably don't call it Omega springs. I imagine that's copyrighted. But the
The alpha spring.
fishbowl, yeah, the fishbowl shaped spring looks like a fishbowl upside down. That goes there. You can adjust the tension on that. So the micro milling on the G10, I may not be able to get on camera. The micro milling is excellent. Really, really clean. You would not know this is G10 until you touched it. It looks like a DLC coated titanium. So really lightweight, really comfortable. To me, this knife is every bit as good as a TRM Atom. It's every bit as good as any Benchmade I've ever handled, and the price point is right there with those knives. So really, really competitive USA made knife. And as you learned last week, we're talking USA made, right? The steel's from New York, and the rest of the knife is made there. There was a couple things he said they didn't make.
Like The stop pin, he said, was made down the street.
Stop pin, yeah, the stop pin is not made in house. That might be it. Maybe the standoffs. I
I think
imagine the
it was
standoff and
like
the stop pin come from the same place.
two minor parts, and they were made in somewhere in the Dallas area.
Yeah. Now that I own this one, I think I'm going to be ordering some stuff for it. Like Rips
Ooh.
Garage Tech makes scales. I think
Oh,
he's already making micarta. He's got a really cool burgundy micarta that looks killer. He's got some other options available, so I
oh wow.
might be doing that. I do need to sharpen it, and I haven't sharpened a ton of Magna Cut yet. Tom, have you?
I have sharpened some Magna Cut. It's not
I
very
read
difficult.
I read somebody saying it was a little bit fussier than like S30V. Have you found that?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't notice much difference in steels anymore. It's
Okay.
just with good stones, like it kind of all the same. Like stuff gets burrs easier than other stuff, but Magna Cut, from what I recall, being like pretty freaking easy actually.
One thing I really like about Tactile, and I'll contrast that with another brand that's been oh, there's some scandal going on too, Tom. We should probably talk about. But Tactile is running towards problems and solving them rather than blaming them on the fan base or blaming them on the naysayers and ignoring problems. And there are knife companies out there that you guys can think of that kind of spend their time not fixing problems and they just continue making the same mistakes over and over. Tactile is not one of those. So when these first came out, there were some QC issues. Anyone that had a problem sent it back and got it fixed. And moving forward, if you talk to dealers about these, they'll tell you that the problem is largely behind us. So I don't see any issues with this knife. If it was on bearings, I guess it would slide quicker and faster. But this thing is very, very smooth. And the
Is
bearings
this
were good.
a PM2, like drop shot feeling like PM2, or is it different? Or
I
Manic?
haven't dialed it in enough to make it drop shut like a PM2. I probably could. Um, I think I went a little tight on the pivot when I put it back together, but honestly, it's fine. Anyway, really nice knife. If you guys are thinking about getting a USA made knife, very high quality, TRM quality, and everybody loves TRM. Benchmade quality, I would say it's a little nicer than Benchmade's. The grind is better. the
Yeah.
the attention to detail is better. One thing I notice on the Benchmades is the machine that they use to grind the blades is a lot more coarse. So think Spyderco's grind, but like, I don't know, just coarser, I guess. They don't have that problem. Jimmy Massey loves the way that Magna Cut sharpens up. It's easy to sharpen. Well, there you have it. One thing I can think of that might cause it to feel different when it sharpens is the amount of chromium that's in it.
Yeah.
Chromium is the hardest. Chromium is the hardest additive you can put in steel. Did you know that?
Hmm.
If you take a piece of chromium and you measure its hardness, it's in the 90s. It's
Oh,
very, very
really?
hard.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have a high chromium knife, you could say that the stones on your sharpener might have a harder time sharpening it. And an example of that would be like 110V.
Yeah, makes sense.
110V is kind of a pain in the ass to sharpen, right? And it's because there's so much chromium in the solution that when you're sharpening it, you're really having to run at it. And you'd really need diamonds. You're really not going to cut it with a Arkansas stone. So maybe that's why people are saying that about Magna Cut. Even if you're not in the market to buy one, I would definitely tell you to try it. Go to your favorite knife store and try one. Go to like I bought mine on the buy sell trade because it was a good price, and if I hated it, I
Yeah.
could just sell it again. So I do that a lot of times just to get knives on the show for you guys. I'll buy stuff just to try it, and then I might sell it later if I don't love it. Did you have an Emerson, Tom?
I did. I owned an Emerson. That was when I was still in buy everything mode. Um, the first batch of Emerson's were an S30V, and they were not a big hit at the time. They were a pretty slow seller. The first batch, like everything that comes out originally, that's a new thing. That's an S30V. It just sits. So those sat for quite a while. But I will say, waves are fun. They are. They're not something I would want to carry every day. But if you have the desire to want to pull a knife out of your pocket and have it open, when it's pulled out of your pocket, they do the trick very well. Like they do exactly what they're supposed to do. They're not hard to get to deploy. Um, I think they're kind of fun. They're kind of neat. I don't own one anymore. But I think now that once they sold out, I see people ask for them once in a while. And so now they're coming back in LMAX, the Blade Ops. I think this run will be more successful than the first run just because the steel, and now more people are kind of interested in the idea of a different blade shape PM2 in general. So if you're interested in one, I think it's a safe bet to get one and resell it if you don't like it. I will say Emerson waves can be kind of dangerous. The worst cut I've ever got in my life was from a waved Endura. So don't try to open an Emerson wave wearing basketball shorts because you need something like sturdy in your pants, like your pants in place to like pull that wave open.
I too have cut myself on a wave knife. I didn't have any practice with one, and I decided to hot dog it and try opening it. And yeah, I cut my hand. So you're gonna want to practice with it carefully, I would say.
Yeah.
But Ernie Emerson was known for making knives that were really um, field ready, like tough, built beefy knives. And one thing you'll get with the Emerson PM2 is you get a Scandi grind. So the
Yeah.
blade is thicker across the spine. So you get the Emerson thing, and then you also get a thicker spine down the length of the knife. So it's going to be a little bit tougher of an edge, a little bit tougher of a blade. So if you're the kind of person that's worried about breaking the tip on your knife, I don't think
Yeah.
you'll have a problem with one of those.
I mean, they are fun. It's I think a lot of people make fun of them because the idea they associate it so much with zip ties and all that jazz. There is other wave Spydercos. I don't see them very often either. But if you want that fun in your life, don't deny yourself that fun because pulling a knife out and having it open does have a little bit of giggle factor to it.
It does. So Christian's informing us that MagnaCut has the same chromium as S30V. Oh, okay. Well, there you have it. Have you handled an EXO? I haven't.
I don't know what an EXO is. I don't think.
No, either. Matriarch with Emerson is scary. Yeah, it is. Yeah, that knife will ruin your day. Waves rip your pockets. Can sometimes cut you. That's right. The Riot EXO gravity knife.
I have handled one of those, and
Yeah, that's now I know what it is. Yep.
it's not for me. It's to me that's too much of a novelty knife for me. I don't. That's to me more about how cool can the knife be over how functional can it be and useful. Um, that kind of lock is just, I think it's too showy for me.
Yeah, it's a fountain pen that writes under whipped cream. I don't understand it. It's clever and it's different, but it's not a knife. It's a toy. It's perfect for Blade magazine.
Yes,
I'm sure they've
that's
showcased
where I
it
always see
9
it. It's
million
something to
times.
do with Blade magazine has something to do with it always.
They're not interested in good knives, just weird knives.
No.
So, I love you, Blade magazine. Thank you for showing us a great time every year at Blade Show. But your coverage of knives, it drifts towards the strange. Maybe that's what gets you clicks. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't need to see any more flaming throwing axes or, I don't know, Klingon scimitars.
They're big on the art knives. They're big on the ballad songs. They're big on
Right.
all the things that aren't our group.
This knife has a tranquilizer dart in it.
Oh,
Oh,
what?
no way.
Oh, before I forget though, I do want one of those shark stabber CO2 knives. Those would be perfect for blade maintenance.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. You seen it fuck up a watermelon?
No, but I
It's
want to.
amazing. Yeah, you do. What do you guys think of the smock? It's become a favorite of mine, but I'm curious what you guys think of them. I got to meet Kevin Smock. I got to talk to him about the way he designed his knife, humble brag, name drop. And I think it's a really clever, neat design. I have some friends that absolutely love it. It's like their favorite Spyderco. What do you think, Tom?
I think it's cool. I think it's a very good fidgety knife. I think it's one of those knives where if you like the way it looks, then you will like that knife. I think it's okay looking. And I'm not the biggest fan of the ergonomics for cutting, but for fidgeting and flicking and playing around with, it's perfect for that. I don't dislike it, and I definitely it's one of those knives that if you like it, then by all means, it's a great knife. There's nothing wrong with it if you like it.
The uh, the fun thing about Kevin's story about that knife is he said he wanted to design a knife that had everything that he liked about a knife. Or no, I'm sorry. How did he do this? He said he made a list of all the things he likes about knives and all the things he hates about knives. And not all the things that he loves about knives made it in the knife, but nothing that he hates about a knife made it in the knife, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So it doesn't have anything that he hates about a pocket knife. And I think it's a really cool design. It's really fun and it's easy to carry in the pocket. I think
slam.
a lot of guys are and we saw it recently. Somebody cut themselves really badly on their knife. They took out the secondary detent.
Ah,
That
yes, I
that
saw
detent
that.
ball is in there for a reason, guys. It's there for your safety. If you
That was
accidentally push the button while it's in your pocket, the blade will come open.
was that today or yesterday in the group? I saw
Maybe
someone
a week
stab through
ago.
their pocket.
It was a week ago.
Maybe I just saw the post pop up. It was someone stabbed through their pocket, right? It was taking out the bottom of their pocket.
I think she took her shorts down and then pulled her shorts back up again, and the knife had come open and it cut her leg.
Maybe it happened again because I swear I saw something today, and I wanted to go into the comments and say, "Did you take the secondary D10 out?" Was my first reaction in my head.
Yeah, yeah, that can be a very dangerous thing. So
Oh, Instagram's where I saw it. I saw it on Instagram today. Millie Club got tagged with it. That's right.
okay, you want to be careful with that.
Yeah.
Chappie says the smock is a terrible cutter. The behind the edge measurement's really thin, so it is a slicey knife, but because it's a hollow grind and it comes out relatively quickly because the blade's not very tall, then the thickness of the blade does become an issue. So I would say it kind of depends on what you're cutting. The classic test, Tom, is how does it slice an apple? If you
Yeah.
try to slice an apple with a smock, it probably makes the apple break more than it cuts it. Did you replace the springs and pneumatics when you switch to AWT scales? A lot of guys do that, don't they, Tom? They switch the spring
Yeah.
out. They switch the little nubby thing.
That's because my theory is so people are used to access locks where you can grip them like just a normal knife and pull. I mean, I'm so used to opening a Mannix now that I can pull it back. It's a little effort, but the right way to close a Mannix is to hold it vertically and pull down so you have the butt of the knife sitting in the heel of your hand. And that makes it so I don't need to switch the spring out. I've never had so much of a problem too. I understand
Yeah.
why people do. I never recommend the Mannix as a first Spyderco because I know that's the first stumbling block people come upon is like learning to close it. But once you learn to close it, I don't feel like you need the softer spring in it.
I need to carry this knife more. I need to sharpen it too. This 15V Mannix did not have a good edge.
I
It's still the
believe you.
factory edge. See how much fatter it is here than it is like here.
Every one of them I've seen has.
Yeah,
It's like whoever was responsible for that day on those Mannixes. When I first started sharpening, that's all I got. Like half the knives that came in were Mannixes with funky looking edges.
I'll fix it. Hey, Facebook user. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jason. That's Tom. And now you're finger flicked in box. Glad you made it. Kershaw ET is one of the craziest mechanisms that doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's cool. I'll have to try one. I haven't seen one. I dropped a PM2 tip down in my lap once while I was driving. I put a hole in my pants and I was bleeding and I was going 85 miles an hour. So that was frightening. So now I'm a lot more careful while I'm driving. I usually don't flick knives while I'm driving.
My worst cut was from the aforementioned Emerson Wave Endura in my basketball shorts that I tried to pull out and it got stuck. So I put my hand down on my shorts to like grip it. And when I pulled out, it just went zoop across I can't feel things in this finger anymore. It cut this finger bad. And being a smart person, might have been not sober. I started freaking out and like swinging my hands on the air, and blood was flying all over the walls of my house. My wife was like, "Chill out." But instead of going to the hospital and get it fixed properly, I just, band-aided it up for like a couple months until it finally got better-ish. That was a bad one.
Yeah, that was not a good idea.
It's always the cut. I don't know. I don't get embarrassed of getting cut. I do a little bit. But at work one time, I was flicking a PM2. You never want to admit like how you cut yourself with a knife is from doing something stupid other than like work. I was flicking a red PM2 at my desk at work. I just dropped it straight, tipped down into my thigh. And like I was in the middle of my office. And I didn't want people to like ban pocket knives from work. And I just tried to hide that fact that someone saw me do it. And like, "Oh, are you okay?" I'm like, "No, that's fine." As the puddle of blood grew and grew and grew and grew.
Oh man.
That was a pretty bad one for how small it was. It was deep.
I was at a little knife get together once, and I forget his name now. One of the guys that works at Rick Hinderer Knives was there, and he had a big collection of knives from the shop that he was showing off. And knives were opening and closing, and there's a whole group of people standing around the table, and the knives are doing this, and everybody's flipping and turning. And I reached for a knife right as somebody else was reaching to pass a knife, and the knife wasn't shut, and it stabbed me. And I was bleeding really bad. I had it wrapped in towels, holding on to it. And every time I take pressure off, it would start right up again. I think it was a few hours before it slowed down. Drop shutting knives often aren't very good at staying closed in the pocket. I suppose it depends on whether the lock bar relief causes the drop shutty or whether it's the pivot. If it's just the pivot, you're probably okay because the detent ball is still pushing on the blade when it's closed. But if you're monkeying with the lock bar, then yeah, that can matter. The pakal has sliced me so many times, usually reaching into my pocket. I hit the wave and the blade comes out and it cuts my hand. Last time it got me really good and I stopped carrying it. Is this Eric Shepard?
It's got to be, because who else has a pakal?
I don't think two people out there carry a pakal.
A pakal is a reverse karambit that you hold upside down that's got a wave on it. I don't know when they stopped making them. When I first got into Spyderco, I thought it was the coolest looking knife they made because it was crazy. I didn't even know how you held it, but you hold it reverse grip and it's got a karambit on it. I could imagine that cutting a lot of people.
Yeah. I imagine that knife cut a bunch of people. Any secret to putting the secondary detent ball back into a smock? Yeah. You remove the presentation scale, you put the ball back in, and then you put the spring in behind it, and then you put the scale back on without launching it across the rim.
I like how everyone's smock becomes second detentless on accident. It's usually like,
right.
Then everyone's like, "No, dude, it's totally cool now. You lost it. Better. You lost it, but you made your knife better on accident."
Yep, it goes into orbit.
Yeah.
Karambits are scarier than ballad songs to me. Yep. Tom, I've got some other new knives here that these guys haven't seen.
Show them off.
So, guys, Sergio at Kunwu Knives sent me a couple knives to check out. And I've got 2 of the Pulsar knives here. This is the Pulsar in titanium with LMAX and a satin blade. And then I also have a Pulsar with a DLC blade. Look at that DLC, Tom.
Oh, that's nice.
It's got a DLC blade and it's got carbon fiber on the handle. So this one's all murdered out too. So the liner and the hardware and everything is all black on it. These knives are designed by a small team of people, including Sergio, who's you might know him as Countess Anne's boyfriend. So those two are quite a team. He designs these knives in conjunction with Kunwu in China, and they're made in mainland China. His designs are quite nice. They're very grippy. They're very nice in the hand. He offers a really nice forward choil. I know a lot of you guys love a forward choil. The jimping is tasteful. There's not too much of it. Really comfortable in the hands. Not super fancy looking, but really a nice, elegant design. It makes for a really nice, usable knife. Very, very slicey. The thickness behind the edge is very, very thin, but the blade itself is really nice to use. I carried this one for about a week in my pocket, and I really liked it. The titanium model, a little bit heavier than the carbon fiber. It's got a really nice diamond pattern in the titanium, but it's also blasted, so it has a nice soft look to it. Not crazy about the lanyard back here because I don't need a handle for the handle. But for those of you who like a lanyard, then you're good to go. Pocket clip is well designed, and it's a nice sturdy piece of titanium. It's a bend over tie pocket clip, so it goes all the way to the back of the knife. It's got the little K right here. Whole knife's easy to take apart. It's also ambidextrous. There's a little kind of like a hinderer knife. It's got a little piece you can pop in there to cover the place where the pocket clip used to be. And then as far as bar locks go, guys, this thing is crazy. It's super smooth, super quiet. Like very few bar locks if I used are this quiet. This thing just, you can hear it right next. It's right next to the microphone. You may not be able to hear it. So very fidgety. The hole is nice. You can spidey flick it. You can thumb flick it. Pretty cool little knives. So I don't remember the price range on these, and I do believe they're available in multiple handle configurations. But LMAX steel with a proper heat treat, bar lock, really cool little knives. His new designs coming out are the Django and the Padre that are both really popular, and they're getting a lot of flash. The Django is kind of a Bowie blade bar lock. The Padre, I think, is a little bit bigger, a little showier of a blade. We're hoping to have Sergio on the show to talk about his designs in the next couple weeks. That'll be fun. Yeah, he said he'd join us and do a stream with us. I think these are cool. These are really well done and nice designs. They don't look like everybody else's knives. To me, they look different, which is nice. I feel like sometimes there's not a lot of original designs in the knife world.
Yeah,
I've been seeing a couple of releases lately that look kind of derivative, but these are not. So I'll be sending these off to Brad Caldwell to check off next, and then Brian Tidd's going to get them, and then Tom's going to get them. So we'll just sort of do a pass around. People can check them out. I know the X Tau and the Tau have been out for a while, and those have been pretty popular. I've had an X Tau for maybe a year and a half, and I think it's a cool knife. I carry quite a bit. Looks like somebody wants a Padre. So Tom and I are going to do a little research on these. We're going to learn more about them, and then when Sergio's on, we'll be able to talk about them a little bit better. But
sounds good to me.
Yeah, first impression on these, pretty cool. Cool little knives.
They're nice looking. I gotta give it. If nothing else, it's an attractive blade.
I'm in the Kunwu group, and I've been following along. He and Anna went to Kunwu for the last couple of weeks. They've been over there, and it's been neat to watch like the inside of what it's like to work with a design team. So it's literally just Sergio and like 4 other people. That's it. And they're whiteboarding and working on ideas, and I think he's got things mapped out for 2024. So now it's just a matter of having things made and getting them sent through. Pretty cool. Let's see. Have you guys gotten your hands on Eric's EDZ yet? No, I haven't. Yeah, I wish his shop was closer to me because I'd go pick one up. He's talking about the Eric Ziliak
Yeah.
knife, Tom.
Mm.
Yeah, if I lived closer, I'd go check one out, but his shop's not too close. $299 is a good deal for that knife. It's a Vanex steel, if I remember right, titanium.
Yeah.
Cool knife. Can we go back to the knife company tea you mentioned in passing?
You said there was some drama. You were like saying, "Oh, there's some drama going on."
Is that called tea?
Yeah. Gossip over some tea.
I didn't know that's slang. According to Joshua Almond over in Knife Trading Sales and Feedback, Mixed Strider's knives are not made by Mixed Strider. They're made by Tor Knives.
Hmm.
I don't think it's every knife, but it looks like the bulk of the series, dude, is made over in Tor. So Mick Strider's had a really odd career where he started out claiming to be something that he wasn't, and had a little bit of stolen valor built into his business because he wanted to say that his knives were ready for combat. And then, as a way to overcome that, allegedly he gave away some knives to some soldiers, and now he's supposed to be, that fixes that, right? So I
Yeah.
give the
Yeah.
knives away for free. I've handled many of his knives in the last year and a half, and I can tell you that most of them were heavy and a late lockup, and I don't know, I didn't love them. They weren't my jam, and they're also rather expensive. I don't get it.
I have sharpened a fair number of them now. I find the shape cool looking, and that's about where my love affair ends with them. Like they're hard to open, they're clunky, junky, heavy, just a lot. I don't know. It's one of those brands where I don't know how it got. Well, actually, I do know how. Me and Jason were looking at some old Spyderco's, and we're like, man, the knife industry really used to not be what it is now. And maybe it was just like they were the same back then. I don't know. Maybe it's just they had less competition than they do now in the knife world. They built a name.
I don't know. It's sometimes a pivotal moment comes along in an industry, and a couple of companies will rise to the top and they'll shine. And what's interesting is that they continue to shine long after everyone else has passed them by, and it has to do with the way that as human beings we process information. So somebody new comes in the hobby and they go, "What's a good knife?" And then we all go, "Oh," and we name the same knives that we were told when we were started, and
Yeah.
that's how that happens. But I like companies that innovate. I like companies that move forward. I like companies that get better over time, and I don't generally love companies that continue to make the same knife over and over and over. And some of these guys really get stuck in the mud. Like it's obvious that they're not buying better machinery. They're not changing their ways. They're just making the same knife. And if you're into that, that's fine. Whatever. Like it's just opinions. But yeah, if it's true that he's not been making his own product and hasn't been telling his customer base that he's not making his own product, that's misleading. But it wouldn't be the first time. So yeah. Shocking revelations. Now his collab designs, I've handled a few of those. They're pretty good because Protec's making them. If
Yeah.
you really want a nice knife, check out the Boker designs that Protec is making. Those are killer. They
Oh,
make
really?
one called they make one called the Quaken. It's badass. I haven't seen Wes from Pocket Perspective in a while. Is he still around? I talked to him a couple months ago. He's doing good. He's taking a step back from the hobby. He pushed really hard on his Instagram, and his YouTube content, and he felt like the growth wasn't where he wanted it to be, so he took a step back. But I'm with you. I loved his content. I thought his YouTube stuff was great. His anodizing video is what taught me how to ano, and I don't know. I liked his stuff. We still see people that join our group because
all the time.
they saw his videos, so he's having an enduring effect.
Yeah.
I know where you're going, Victor, but I think for the most part, Spyderco does improve over time. I do think they get better. Handle it 2011 PM2. You'll know what I'm talking about.
Or just go back until before 2010 and look at the catalog. You'd be like, but all the knives that were so used to being repeated, they didn't exist yet. Like Spyderco has changed a lot. The ACQI stuff, new models come out. Like look at the Delica evolution. That's a slower evolution than some other knives, but from being like one of the first clip it model knives with the molded plastic clip to what it is now, it's evolved. It's changed. It's not the same thing anymore.
I think the Golden Colorado factory is where you see the most agility and the most improvement. The Seki City factory seems to be the most traditional and the least likely to change quickly. And then Taichung, they make excellent knives, right? And they do scrap stuff and make and start over sometimes, like the Kapara.
Mm-hmm.
They turned on a dime with the Kapara. So, you know, there's that. The steel choice is one thing, but for me, it's more like, I don't know. Look at a Koenig and look at how close the lock bar is to the frame. See that?
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't do that at some of these other American companies. They can't manufacture it that tightly because their machines don't have those tolerances. They just can't cut it like that. You know, they're using like a coarser milling machine to cut their stuff. So they're the plus or minus thousandths of an inch is not anything that these other guys are going for. They want to be a lot tighter tolerances. So
I
I
still
don't know.
don't understand how you're supposed to sharpen them. Everyone's like, well, they're made of soft steel on purpose so you can sharpen them on a rock after you get done killing somebody in a trench in warfare, combat, or whatever. I'm like, okay, how do you sharpen it if you're just going to carry it and it's a chisel ground blade? I don't fully understand that.
You know, I think Cedric and Ada did a cool test with some SE knives. He took a 1095 knife and an S35 VN knife, and he tested them both. And it was interesting the results he got. Like the 1095 proved to be a lot more capable than you might think, because in terms of edge retention, I think it's the second worst on Larry Thomas's scale.
Yeah.
It's really bad. But
Yeah.
when he was actually using it, he found that the edge rolled a little bit on the 35 VN, but on the 1095, nothing. It did not roll. So the 35 definitely seemed to have a better edge retention, but the 1095 was sturdier for what you would use that knife for, you know, chopping firewood and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He just found it to be better. So the point that I was making earlier was that some companies innovate and get better and others stagnate. And I feel like Seki is not, I don't think they're going down. I think what's happening is everything else is elevating. We're watching all these other knife makers get better, right? And I think they're continuing to make the same traditional style knife that they always have. I don't know. If you play with the Delica from 20 years ago and play with a new Delica, I don't think you're going to notice a big difference. You'd have a hard time guessing which one was made of what year.
Eric even told me, I saw at the Eugene Knife Show, that they kept the prices the same. They didn't inflate the prices this year on Seiki knives because it's the same thing. Like they felt like they'd reached a point where it's like they don't need to be inflated anymore.
Yeah, he didn't want to raise the prices on those knives and make them less competitive.
Yeah.
What's up, buddy? Brian Brown. Yeah, the Corvus. I think that's a cool looking knife.
Yeah, it is.
Very cool. I like the tip. I like the handle. I like the look of it. His personal taste tends to be on the small side. He likes smaller knives. If you ever meet him in person, the knife he'll have in his pocket is like
Mm.
tiny. So this one looks like it's a little bit beefier of a knife, a little bigger. So I like it a lot. And that's going to be available through Slice, I believe, right?
Yes.
Last I checked, some of the pre-orders are already gone. Okay, Conan. Let's see, Tom. Have you been carrying your mini Arius much?
No, I play with it a lot. It's on my desk. It's always around. I always fidget with it. But I've been actually carrying native for the last little bit.
Yeah.
The smooth G10 on the native works so well. So easy in and out of pocket. So lightweight with no liners. And I got pretty killer edge on this one. So it's been fun just to carry around the house. Arius is always, I don't know, it's it's better in this form factor for my usage of carrying, but native is what's been getting my attention lately.
This week I carried the mini Arius. I carried my tactile rock wall, which is dull. I need to sharpen it. I also carried I carried this Kunwu.
Mm-hmm.
So those were the three that I kind of alternated in my pocket through the week. And the Arius is really, really good.
It is.
I'm so glad that when they shrank it, they made it a little bit thinner.
Mm.
So it's not only smaller, but it's thinner. So the thinner profile really makes it nicer in your pocket. If you're wanting a smaller knife, this is legitimately smaller than the full size in
Oh
every
yeah.
way. Pretty cool. The Rockwall made me happy. After talking to Michael Miller, I was happy to carry it. It is definitely a cool knife, and it's definitely not going to scare anybody in the office because it's
Yeah.
smaller. So let me compare it here.
Oh yeah. It's a big difference.
You can see it's a pretty considerable difference in size, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want a smaller knife, go Rockwall, and the Tanto even looks smaller. They make a Tanto version,
Oh yeah, that's right.
but yeah, this sucker needs an edge. This thing's dull. Well, Tom, I think somebody was wanting to hear more about the Maker Syndicate show. Let me walk through how that worked. So it was really like it was really a Saturday Sunday event. So the show itself was on Sunday, but Saturday at 8 p.m., anyone who was coming to town could meet up at the hotel. There was a big meet and greet at the hotel, and the hotel manager actually allocated a big section of the outdoor patio for just knife enthusiasts. So from probably 8 p.m. to 2 a.m., there were a ton of dudes out there flicking knives, talking, hanging out. People had their collections. They were showing their collections at tables there in the hotel. So the hang environment was really cool. And there were knife makers and knife designers and knife enthusiasts all just hanging out together. And it was really, really fun to be able to do that. A little bit like the pit at Blade Show, but a lot more, a lot easier to mingle and a lot easier to talk because it's not so big and cavernous, not as noisy. There was no DJ.
Yeah.
And so then Sunday was the show. At 11:30, you could go in and you could get your wristband and you could wait to go into the building, into the level where the show is. The show is on the second floor of the building, but people were actually lining up as early as midnight. So there was a line outside the building, and the cool part is the building is actually right next to an elevated train line. So the line actually went under the bridge, so people had some natural cover. But the weather was good. People were out there with folding chairs, just waiting in line so they could get into the show. Um, let's see, I got there about 9:30 and just walked up and down the line talking to friends. And then at 11:30, got into my place, walked into the building, got my wristband, and then sat on the floor for about 90 minutes until they announced that it was time to go in. And at the time it was opened, everybody had to walk up the stairs to get to the second floor. And that's where the show was. And the first 20 minutes was pretty hectic. Like people were really rushing around wanting to see what was there so they could get in line and they could buy something. There was one knucklehead that would not get in line. He would just walk around trying to offer people extra money. He's like, I don't have time to wait in line. And he'd walk around and he'd go, I'll give you $400 more than you paid for it. Just sell it to me right now. And nobody liked that guy. In the first hour, he didn't get a single knife. So I don't know how he did for the day. Hopefully fine. But yeah, I don't know. It was interesting. You could basically count on getting two things.
It's pretty good.
You could get two things. If you wanted three things, it was harder. But you could still do that. If you wanted four things, you might be able to do that, but it's not going to be the hottest stuff. So people tended to just sort of sift off to their favorite makers, and the coolest, most elite stuff disappeared. And then that left the other stuff. So it was probably an hour and a half before guys like Alex Steingraber sold out, because it would take 2 or 3 minutes for people to walk up, shake his hand, look at the knife and pay, and then say goodbye. And then the next guy would come up. So I don't know. It was cool. After maybe 2 hours, people more or less had their purchases and they were just hanging out. So really cool vibe, really beautiful place that they did the show. It could not have gone smoother. So I highly recommend that event next year. If you guys want a casual knife show in a small city where you can walk around and you can have a nice time and it's safe, it was a good show.
Nice.
It's not going to cost as much as going to LA or going to New York or going to, some of these other shows are much more expensive to get in and out of. Let's see. I think there's the New York Custom Knife Show coming up. And then there's also the Nashville show coming up. The Nashville show is supposed to be a pretty big deal. Blade West is coming up. I will not be going to Blade West. Are you going?
I'm just on one show a year diet at the moment.
And then after that's the Kentucky Custom Knife Show. It's the first weekend in December. So I'm going to that one.
That's a bunch of stuff. That would be cool. You drive there, though. That's not so bad.
The list is even bigger than last year, and I'm kind of worried about it because last year there wasn't enough space. I don't know if maybe they're going to take over the restaurant area for more tables. I hope so, because there's not enough space for vending there. People, they actually don't even let you in with backpacks because there's so much crowding. You can't get around the tables. It would probably be close to a fire code problem. It's wild. We saw John Popper there last year from Blues Traveler.
That's cool.
He's a knife nut, turns out.
Not surprising.
No.
Harmonicas and knives go so well together.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, it's about all I got for now.
That sounds good to me.
I don't have anything else here to talk about. Shall we wrap it up?
I think that sounds great.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you have a nice weekend, and we'll see you next week. Hopefully we'll have more fabulous knife talk to go over, and you guys bring your questions and we'll answer anything we can. But thanks for watching. That's Tom. I'm Jason. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.